All right, this fall marks his 25th year coaching and fourth year as the head coach at Cedar Ridge High School. In his first season, he led the team to the state semifinals in 2017 and has seen the playoffs every season after that. Coach Robinson. While he gets set up.
There you go.
There you are, Coach. How you doing?
What's going on, guys?
Nothing much.
Nothing much. Just sitting here for 12 hours.
Yeah,
Man,
9 hours in.
that's a long time.
Yeah.
You have a bunch of people come on and come through, or what?
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah,
people
we've
come
seen
through supporting.
Yeah, we've had a pretty good support group coming in and out for every interview and what we've been doing.
Good.
Yeah, and I set a goal at the beginning of the stream that if we got a certain amount of followers, I'd bleach my hair, and they reached it pretty quickly. So my hair's
Yeah.
my hair's blonde now.
And that happened quick too. It
I was
only looks like
surprised.
that. It's going to look like really blonde tomorrow.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not half bad.
yeah, it doesn't
No,
look
it,
too bad.
it looks fine. It looks like
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes.
I saw that coming.
I knew it was coming. A lot of people say that. I don't know why. All right, so Coach, we can get right into the questions. Just like a little introductory question at first. Where are you originally from?
And originally from, and you'll probably, I'll almost bleach my hair if anybody's heard of this place, but literally, but Dale City, Texas, which is a little town between El Paso, Texas, and Carlsbad, New Mexico. So it's just right on the edge, like on the border of the Texas-New Mexico state line. And it's kind of right in between there, El Paso and Carlsbad. So far, far west Texas.
Wow, super west.
Yeah.
Good country out there.
I don't know any of Texas, so
It's probably, it's crazy. Texas is so big. We go out there. I really don't have any family that lives there anymore, but I still have some high school friends, and like we'll go out there and visit them. It's probably roughly a 9-hour drive from here, from Round Rock, and that's just that's just all in Texas. And we're in Central Texas, right? So I'm only going essentially halfway across.
yeah.
So
That was a real
Yeah.
big shock when I moved here, seeing how big the state was and how long it took me to go from place to place. Really crazy and surreal. Anyway. So what made you want to coach football of all like sports?
well, I grew up in a small town. I mean, you weren't like exposed to a lot of different things. There's a lot of farming, ranching, and you had your teachers, your coaches, and just some of my teachers, big influence in my life. One in particular was an ag teacher, but I just more interested in sports. Had some really good coaches. Uh, Loved being around athletics, and just wanted to stay involved, stay around it, and that's kind of how I got into it.
That's good stuff. And how would you describe like your leadership style, your philosophy when it comes to coaching?
And I don't know. I want to say something. We all probably gonna like what, but I ain't you ask most coaches. I'm pretty patient. Like I really try not to jump to conclusions real quick. I mean, like I think one thing like in a leadership role is you always have things like I would do it this way, but you have other coaches with you, other people. Well, they're good coaches too. They've have experiences of their own as well and have great ideas themselves. And so like sometimes they're doing something, or you give them a task and they're doing it, and you watch what they're doing, and a lot of times at the beginning man, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if I like this or whatever. But I think I'm pretty good at just staying patient, letting it work out. And a lot of times it works out a lot better than if I would have jumped in and changed it up. So
Yeah.
That's good.
So you kind of let it run its course and see what can come
Yeah,
from it.
I think a lot of times, you need to let stuff run its course. And y'all hear me say it a lot in off-season practice games. Is generally what's going on. It's generally not as, whether you think what's going on is really bad or really really good. Generally, it's not as bad as you think, and it's really generally not as good as you think either. It's always, I always feel like the truth, what's really happening is always somewhere in the middle, and if you just kind of stay the course, it usually works out better.
Mhm. And so we did a little bit of research as well as hearing stories from you, Coach, that you've coached all over the state of Texas. And do you think that CR is like a permanent home for you?
Yeah, I think most likely, the reason I would say yes is, my kid. So I have a kid coming into freshman year, so he'll be a freshman at Cedar Ridge next year. And I think, he was born in Hereford, Texas. I was coaching there. When he was 10 months old, we moved, went to Levelland, Texas. Uh, was only there a year, probably another 10 months, maybe a little bit long, maybe 12 months. So he was not quite 2 yet. He turned 1 there in Levelland, not quite 2. Moved to Round Rock. Actually coached at Stony Point back like in 08, 09. And then, he was about 4, moved to Dallas area, started school there. Then when he was in first grade, moved to Lubbock. Then we moved here. And so when he was like, I think 6 years old, he had lived in 5 houses, you know? And so when we got here, we actually I came here, I don't know if y'all even probably knew this. I came here as the defensive coordinator. I was a head coach at a smaller town near Lubbock. And so when I came here, I knew the head coach that was coming in, came here as a defensive coordinator. And I kind of thought I'd stay here like just a couple years. He was in 5th grade, and then like try to find my permanent home. Kind of more of a smaller town person, but man, just really loved it. Then things worked out. That coach went to Baylor, and I got promoted. So, well, now he's going to start as a freshman. He really loves Cedar Ridge. He wants to graduate from Cedar Ridge. So if I stay through his year, his senior year, then I would have 1 more year, and theoretically I could retire. I don't know about if I'm ready to, or if financially I could, but by the rules I could retire. So, I don't see myself going anywhere else. But the unfortunate thing about coaching is it's not always your choice either. It's crazy. Like something goes wrong, or, maybe nothing goes wrong. Somebody decides it's time for you to go. Sometimes you have to go. So, but I hope that doesn't happen, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I speak for most of the players on the team. I mean, we'd love to keep you around. Definitely one of my favorite coaches. Definitely
Appreciate that.
definitely an intense guy at some times, but overall an awesome coach to have. That intensity does help out. And so even with you saying that you'd like for Cedar Ridge to be your permanent home, if you were to get an offer to coach like at a higher level, would you take it, or do you have any aspirations to move on to the next level?
Yeah, again, it goes back to the guy that was here, Sean Bell, when he went to Baylor. And he's actually a lot younger than me, and he had 2 like 4-year-old twin sons or 3-year-old twin sons when he got the opportunity to go to Baylor. And then since then he's had a daughter, and one of the things he talks about a lot is, he loves the coaching aspects of it, loves the like the atmosphere on game day, the recruiting, you're flying all over the country recruiting, and just loves all that kind of stuff. But then like your time away from your family's, tenfold what it is in high school. So I really think I want to pursue that right now. I feel like I've coached a lot of kids, and when my son was playing like youth sports, youth soccer, youth basketball, talking about even before junior high, so like fourth grade, fifth grade. Well, I missed out on a lot of his stuff. Definitely missed out. Like I never really coached him much because I go watch his games, but I was busy with other things. So like I kind of like, man, next year will be my 25th year coaching. So I was like, man, I spent like 24 years coaching other people's kids. Like I want to be around and be involved in my son's high school career. So next 4 years, I don't see myself doing it. If I had the opportunity, it's tough to get those opportunities too. But, after that, you never know. It would be a once in a lifetime opportunity for sure. So you'd have to consider it.
It's actually a really good answer. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand what you're coming from. Like, of course, wanting to see your son grow up and play. And as a more competitive, as you move on the next level, the more the commitment is. Although it comes with the better pay and the better job, but then again, you see more time away from the family in a time whenever your children are, growing up.
Yeah, and I never really thought of it that way in terms of your kids or your son being a freshman, but I completely understand that you want to see him progress throughout that and be able to be there with him.
Yeah. And he's scared to death of you guys too. And I was like, you're not even going to practice with him. They're going to well, no, they're not. You're not going to practice with him. He's convinced I'm lying to him.
I mean, that's how I felt as a freshman, though, too.
Exactly.
Like looking at, I was like, those guys are so big. And now that I'm like in the other seat, it's like, wow, we're not that intimidating. Watching some stuff we do in the locker room, it's like, yeah, we're not the scariest bunch of kids.
No, it's never, like I said, it's never as bad as you think. Never.
Yeah.
Truth is in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What's your exact charity thing that y'all are doing for?
All our donations today are going to Habitat for Humanity, specifically helping a single mother named Kelsey and her 2 kids, and they're going to build her a home, and of course, to where she's going to own it at a reduced price, and all of our proceeds go to getting the funds to build that house for her.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet, that's a really good deal.
And earlier on in the stream, we talked to Nicole from Habitat for Humanity and Kelsey, the future homeowner, and it was really heartwarming to see that and see what we've been able to do with getting this message out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and sorry, go
ahead.
All right. So what do you look for in a player, if anything, like mentality wise?
That's probably the hardest thing in coaching is there's so many aspects of it, and every year you learn you learn lessons of whether you did something right. And, man, that's really good. And you need to look for that more. Or whether sometimes you realize, man, I made some mistakes there. When I'm talking about like player, trying to pick your guys or whatever you want to call it. And the hard thing is you've got your measurables, and those are a factor. They just, bottom line, they are, meaning like your size, your speed, your strength, your things, your measurables, and because it is what it is. If you're going up against somebody that's 10 times as big and fast and strong as you, even if you're playing harder than they are, or your assignment better than they do, like you may not be able to beat them. But I think too, that's a double-edged sword. And I think sometimes as coaches, we fall into that trap. Well, here's this kid that's, whatever, big, fast, strong, this, that, or the other. And even though he doesn't perform that well, he doesn't try that hard, or doesn't care about his teammates that much, you still just think, like, you just keep going down that road of man, if we can just get him bought in, where he's playing a little harder, or whether he tries a little harder, or whether he understands his assignment a little bit better, then man, he's going to be a beast. And then sometimes you just keep trying and it never pans out. So like, to me, what I try to focus on is guys that, are able to learn what they need to do. And usually that's just a matter, like football is not physics, right? And so usually it's a matter of caring enough to listen, to watch, to take care of your business so you know what you're doing. Because bottom line, if you don't know what you're doing, it's going to be a hard thing to accomplish. Guys that care about their teammates a little bit more, willing to do a little bit more for their teammates. And because I think if you put a lot of guys on the field that know what they're doing and that care about their teammates enough to do that job, because you all have any football game and it's different people, different positions in different games. You're going to have a job that's not that much fun. It may be like on a defense, you're having to blow up an offensive lineman that's just a beast. Or, you're an O-lineman and you're having to block a defensive end that's a beast. And it's almost like you're probably going to lose the battle. But if you fight them hard enough, your team can win the war type deal. So I think trying to focus in on more guys like that, you're going to have a more successful team. And that's what we're trying to put together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this upcoming season more than ever is at least I feel that we're going to be more oriented around team ball now that we don't have. We still have superstars, but it's a rare sight to see it like a Jalen Ellis or a Deuce Vaughn show up. So
yeah, we fill out stuff and get a lot of questionnaires or phone calls, like with the football preview magazines and all that. And that's what I said. A lot of them. We still have like some really good talent. It's not like we're playing with a bunch of non-talented guys, but like don't have the natural 10-3 100-meter guy Jalen Ellis was, or Deuce's quick vision and work. All those things were just amazing, and they're good kids too. But I think from top to bottom, we're going to be more solid team that kind of can grind it out a little bit better. Then at least I hope that's what we become.
Yeah, I feel like as a team we'll get there.
Yeah, I do too.
I also feel like with this upcoming season and the team that we have, we're more oriented towards our teammates. We care more for our teammates than we have in previous years, I believe, because we've been around each other for this long. We've built that bond, that brotherhood.
If you watch a lot of pro sports, whether any sport, football, baseball, basketball, it's kind of weird. And it kind of feeds itself too, because when you're winning a lot, well, everything's a little more fun and it's a little easier to get along and et cetera, et cetera. And, it's when adversity hits that like your true colors sometimes come out, but so it's a little bit easier when you're winning. But when you really look at those teams that win Super Bowls and win the NBA championship, and like the Rangers were really good a few years ago, Texas Rangers. Well, they all have like great team chemistry. Like they have a lot of fun playing with each other. They take a lot of enjoyment in watching their teammates do well, even if it's better than they're doing. Like if I'm a receiver and the other receivers catching more balls than me or getting more touchdowns than me or whatever, am I really happy about that? Or am I kind of like, man, this ain't fair? And the guys that are really finding enjoyment in just team success, their teams usually end up being a lot better. And there's actually a lot of life lessons right there. It's like the same thing. If you get into a company and all you're worried about is your company being successful, you're probably going to end up pretty successful yourself. And it's going to benefit you, even if, like your company makes more money because they're successful. Well, it's probably going to come to you at some point, right? So, and I do think that we have a lot of guys who really just enjoy each other and have that family thought where, hey man, I'm just happy anybody's doing good. It's all good.
And I can't speak really for varsity level because I've never been up there, but the 2 years I've played on JV, I know it's been a lot of the same guys both years I played, and I think, well, I know through it all. I mean, we won a lot of games, we lost a couple games. We really were there for each other overall. It's like I played safety, and I caught one interception last season, and that was during the scrimmage, and I didn't really focus on that throughout the entire season, and no one else did. It was more of like we got this many interceptions as a team, we got this many tackles as a team, and like, well, that was a team loss. And I know that, like, I know I personally try and stress it. It's like, oh, that wasn't a blown assignment on your part. It was a blown assignment on us. Like, that wasn't executed well on us. So, like, even after the big losses, we'd be in the locker room. I mean, and we'd still be a family at the end of the day, even though we'd be upset.
Yeah, that's the key thing, because you know, when something goes wrong, whether it's like you said, like you're on defense, you give up a touchdown, or you do lose a game, or whatever the deal is, you know, when the reaction is calling other people out as to what they did to cause that situation, when it's never going to end good. You know, when you just kind of look at yourself, you know, like say we give up a big touchdown pass on defense. Well, as a secondary, you should just be asking yourself, like, what could have I done to be over the top better? Linebackers should be asking themselves, what could have I done to be underneath better, to make it a little harder throw? You know, your D lineman should be, God, I need to get to the quarterback a little quicker, help those guys out. And as long as you carry that attitude, I mean, you're going to be successful in. Because other times you'll see, like, you know, you'll go to the sideline and D lineman like, gosh dang it, can't y'all cover anybody? And, you know, why don't you get a pass rush? Why don't you worry about yourself? As long as, if there's a lot of that going on the sideline, you're probably never going to get to where you want to go. So, and you're right on the last few years sub-varsity level. I mean, I hadn't seen any of that. Y'all grinded out a lot of close games and just kind of just kept grinding and got some wins. I think it's because y'all stuck together.
All right, that's a lot of time on one question, so I'll move on to the next. So, so far, how has this like pandemic affected sports, specifically high school football, like that you've seen, and how might it continue to do so, like with the summer trainings and then starting football down in the fall?
Well, you know, obviously, big effect, right? Just the fact that, you know, you start with your spring sports that all got canceled, you know, early. So our track team didn't get to finish their stuff. Softball team, baseball team, golf, tennis. None of those guys got to finish their seasons. You know, you talk about the football team, we're fixing to start spring football, which is a big time for this level of football. Then you start your youth sports. The summer league baseballs you normally would have been starting in May and or even probably earlier than that, April. You know, so obviously just the cancellation of games and practices and stuff, that's been a big deal. You know, for me, like this is probably since I've been coaching, like the longest we've went without like seeing the players, seeing the kids, and vice versa. For y'all, it's probably the longest y'all been without seeing some sort of teacher live, right? Because even summer break isn't really this long, or you don't go this long, because even in summer break for you guys, y'all are doing speed and strength camp, you're seeing your coaches, then, you know, you're out June, July, which is 8 weeks, and then maybe a week, 10 days in August, and you're back at school. Well, man, we've been out probably 10, 11 weeks. You know, this is long, and it's not over yet, right? So that's a big deal. And then, you know, the continuation is who knows? That's still a little bit scary. I don't know if y'all been following the UIL. They put out some stuff Tuesday about speed and strength camp, and they put out some more stuff today, like giving you the guidelines. Now Round Rock ISD has to look at those guidelines and approve it. But assuming that we get started and get to do some stuff, even if it's limited capacity in the weight room, or, you know, all those guidelines, you know, that starts giving you a light at the end of the tunnel to get back to playing. you just hope that everything goes smooth in the fall. There's no outbreaks or things like that where the season gets interrupted or the school year gets interrupted. I think question for y'all, and I don't know, I'm not trying to take all your time, but
That's all right.
It's all good.
perspective, are y'all ready to go back? Or if y'all kind of like, all right, enough?
Yeah, I think I'm ready to get back to normal, really.
Yeah. I'm getting really sick and tired of of
Yeah,
just sitting
I-
around.
It's like I miss school to a certain degree, not necessarily the work, but it's more the interaction on a daily basis. And I really do miss sports. I miss sports so much.
Definitely.
Ah,
Yeah, I think social interactions just it's like a huge part of life. I mean, just huge part of your learning, your education. It's just from interacting with people. I always talk about college, and I think I don't necessarily say college is for everybody, or there's a lot of different ways you can go about college. But I think one thing, like I'd push my son to do, don't know if it'll happen, but when I think back to college, moving there, like living in a dorm, just having to learn to live with other people. Like I learned probably more about that than I did as much as anything. And so, yeah, I do feel like y'all are missing out on some learning. Even if you're learning, even if you're doing your science class online, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. There is some aspects that you're missing. I hope we can get back to it soon.
Mhm. And for this next question, I'm pretty sure everybody knows the answer, but how soon do you hope to take your team to the state championship game?
Obviously, 2020.
Exactly.
Fall.
Yeah.
exactly.
Taylor, why did you put that on there?
Because I just wanted to hear it come out of his mouth. I just wanted to make
Exactly.
sure. And I'm going to clip this and I'm going to send it to every football player I got on Snap.
And the thing about it is that to the belief, like, the difference. Anytime you go up a level, like, so you're just talking about high school football. Anytime you go up a level, so 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A, 6A, I mean, all that stuff. Well, there's good teams all up and down, but like the highest levels, like 6A being the biggest schools, like the difference isn't as much as you think. Like, you sit there and, 2 years ago when we were one game away, well, a couple of different bounces go our way, man, we're in the state championship. Then you go back the next year where we lost the second round to the Woodlands, but it was on a 55-yard field goal, 3 seconds left or whatever it was. Well, then
Some
next
NFL
week
kickers.
they play Allen and lead them the entire game. Allen came back at the end and won it, and then they went to the state championship again. So, this year we for us it seemed like a down year or whatever, just like in terms of wins and losses. But we're the fourth place team coming out of our district, and we made a couple mistakes early in the playoff game. That was the district champions out of that district. Well, it wasn't far-fetched that we could have beat those guys. Just a couple little things bounce a different way, and then all of a sudden you're playing a long time. So it's feasible, and man, this year's as good as any.
Yeah. I really like that. And do you think that getting all the way to that deep playoff run has a better chance now that every class, like all the freshmen, all the sophomores, all the juniors, all the freshmen, all the seniors, have now only experienced you as a head coach? Because you started when we were freshmen, and now we're
Correct.
seniors.
As the head coach, you would hope so. It would pay off. We've talked about it a little bit because in the coaching community, you have the coaching network, whatever. You have a lot of friends doing different things or whatever. But I couldn't imagine, because a lot of times when there's coaching changes, the head coach and his top two, or the couple of coordinators, offense coordinator, defense coordinator, whatever. A lot of times when there's a change, it'll happen during spring break. So like if, let's say we would have left for whatever reason, we our coaching staff, the core group or whatever, I got fired, whatever the case is, I'm gone, and they hired a new coach. Well, that guy probably would have came in and started the Monday you get back from spring break. That's how they try to time things out. It's a good time to transition. Could you imagine of starting a new job? You're supposed to start a new job, new coaches, and you come in, you're planning on coming in Monday. Man, Monday after spring break, we're going to hit the ground. We're going to be rolling. We're going to have spring football. We're going to do this. You don't get to do any of that. Like, you don't even know your kids yet because you hadn't even seen them. You hadn't even met them in person. So I think the staffs or the schools that, like, you guys already know pretty much everything we do, like, schematically. So you always try to add some new wrinkles, but for the most part, it's just going to be sharpening up. So hopefully that does give you an advantage. I mean, that when we do get started, you're not learning from scratch because it just takes a while to learn. Because it takes game experience, like, especially like you, Caleb, both of your spots are pretty unique in the sense that if you're a secondary guy, to me on defense, the secondary, and on offense, the O-line, they see the most things. They have to do the most adjustments. Like, if I'm a running back and we run power, whatever, bull, four, it's the same for them every time. For the O-line, it's different every time. Secondary, well, the pass rushers, it's the same for them every time. Secondary, you got to recognize formations, recognize all that stuff. Well, you practice that stuff, but it's never the same as game experience. So I've already experienced so much in our defense, in our offense, that I think some of those things, as you get older, well, man, I've already seen this. And it might have been your sophomore year on JV when you saw it, but you'll recall it. And so, yeah, I think that'll give us some advantages, y'all being pretty – I think that's always the case, but especially in a year like this where we've lost so much time.
Yeah. I think once we do get back to football, that we're probably going to lean on the fact that we recognize most things in our defense and the offense to help give us a jump start.
Yeah.
And it really does help because I've noticed, like, the players around me, at least on defense, from freshman year, we have I know all of us, we've jumped around positions a couple times, but then we settled into the ones we had. Like, even me, freshman, I played tight end and fullback and a little receiver and safety, and I slowly moved to just safety. And I think just playing those other positions helps me get a better understanding of everything's going on the field. So I know a little bit of everyone else's assignment, so I can better align myself. And it's not just me that can do that. It's most guys, like, in my class have that ability.
Yeah. And for me, when I was playing my sophomore year, to get that feel for that, I was just watching a lot of film to try to look around and see what all was going on so I could notice it during the games and try to adjust to it. That really helped me out having that film available. And to go back to what, Caleb?
Sorry, I was talking to Noah. Yeah.
Oh, go back. And to go back to our previous season, only going one round deep, do you think that there was any specific reason for that, or do you think the team could have gone further?
I really thought talent-wise that we had the ability to go further than we did. Then like I said, there's probably multiple reasons why. You ask different people, they'll probably jump to different things, whether it's mistakes that coaches made or mistakes that kids made or mistakes officials made, in somebody's opinion. And usually it's just a little bit of everything. But ultimately it all comes down to me. And let's just say, there's a game that still to this day bothers me a little bit, which was the Vista Ridge game that we lost on Hail Mary. That happens. That's not the end of the world. Whatever. But the reaction of us as a program, right after that happened, like for the next, I'm talking about like immediately live time, the next 5 minutes, the reaction I saw, I think that's actually the first time I was like kind of worried. And then it goes back. That's all still on me. Like what have I done to make us where we weren't confident, or whether we, weren't accountable, whatever, as much as we needed to be. We had good players. They should have been really, really confident. So what did I do wrong to make that happen? But I think that happened too. We just never got in a really good groove. And it was weird because we went, there's like a stretch in there. So it was the Stony Point game that we lost. Man, that was like a shock to me, shock to everybody, I think. Well, that kind of put our backs up against the wall. The next week, we had an off week, and the next week's Hendrickson, which is a really good team. And I'm worried because, in my opinion, I thought Hendrickson was better than Stony Point. I really did. Well, we just hammered them. Like, not on the scoreboard, but I mean, that game was never really in doubt. A little bit at the end, they made a little run. So, all right, man, there we go now. We're catching our confidence. We're catching our groove. Well, then Vista Ridge happens. It's back to then, and then it really put our backs against the wall against Round Rock, who's a really, really good team. Man, we come out, lights out, play them. A couple things went our way, but, so it was in those games like Round Rock, Hendrickson, you saw the flashes of what the talent could do when it's all running smoothly. We just couldn't get in a groove and stay in a groove.
Yeah, I know, like last season, at least like coming from like someone that's in the locker room every day that interacts with a lot of these guys, I think what like those heartbreaking losses like Stony Point or like a Vista Ridge, what that came down to is, like you said, like maybe there's a lack of confidence. Actually, I think quite the opposite. There was an influx of confidence that they severely underestimated the opponent, to where that even when they were losing, they still thought their talent would just pull them out the win, and it didn't against Stony Point. So they came out and played their hearts out against Hendrickson. And against Vista Ridge, they was in a good groove. You're leading most of the game, and towards the end, you're still in the lead. So you're thinking, oh, time to relax, and then the Hail Mary happens.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Like we goes back to that, like the funny saying we talked about earlier. You're being overconfident, it's just as damaging as being underconfident. So like, and again, at this level of football, you better not be so overconfident, because pretty much, and especially like this one thing about this coming year, I think our district's really even tougher than it's been. Meaning, you look at me. So we had a 9-team district. McNeil finished number 8 in our district. Stony Point finished number 2 in our district. McNeil beat Stony Point. I don't know how many people paid attention to that. That kind of helped us get in the playoffs. But like, McNeil beat Stony Point. So you better never be overconfident. It's never as good as you think. You're gonna have to work. You're gonna have to know your assignment. You're gonna have to perform well. But there's no reason for us ever also to be underconfident. We have enough talent to beat any team on any Friday night. We have the talent, so we just gotta put it together and perform.
Likewise, I'm gonna say, and another question I'm gonna throw at you is, do you see that last season as like a complete failure on the coaches or whoever's part, or even the players, or an opportunity to grow, or even an example to players like us that'll be there in their position next year?
Well, I hope it's two things. I hope it's an opportunity to grow, and and it's something that we can learn from and get better from. Those guys, even like the seniors, and then especially then obviously you guys that are coming back that are still going to be a part of the program. But I'm never gonna look at wins and losses as a total failure or a total success. And I've said this before, but like, if I don't care if we win the state championship next year. And here's the way I see success. And you're just you're never really going to know. It's like 20 or 30 years down the road. But when you two guys are 50 years old or 40 years old and you got your own families and all that stuff, if you look back at high school football experience, man, you really liked it. You really enjoyed it. You had a great time, great memories about it. But it was not the highlight of your life. I think you're successful. I mean, if the highlight of your life's winning a football game, I mean, I'm talking about your entire life when you're 50 years old or 80 years old. If the best thing that's ever happened to me is we won a state championship. Well, I think as coaches, we're kind of failure because, you know, you hope athletics leads you to, you know, better work ethic, so you'll have better jobs, so that you'll have, you know, more commitment to your family, and then you're going to be a happier person, right? And so because we went 6-5, total failure, no. If nobody learns from it, nobody gets better from it, because we should have been better. Our records should have been better, no doubt about it. So if guys learn from it and don't fall in the same traps that caused us to get there, and if you guys learn from it and don't get in this, then hey man, then it's still a success. It's just delayed success. But if nobody learns from it and everybody just keeps doing the same things that causes it, well, failure.
I think,
oh, go ahead.
I think a lot of things that us as a team have learned is discipline. Definitely, we've learned discipline, whether that be from the games or during off season or during practices. We definitely learned a lot of discipline, and that'll help us out later on in life. And it's really I'm appreciative of you guys, all the coaches that teach us these things. They will help us later on in life. I know there's no doubt in my mind of that.
Most definitely. Like I know personally, last season I don't remember our JV record. Like I could guess at it, but I'm not 100%. But my biggest highlight from that season was really how close we got as a team, like the brotherhood that was built over that season, and how it was like I've never been closer to a group of guys like that before, and we really stuck it through the entire season. So I see that entire season as a win. We could have lost all the games, but I mean we were so tight it felt like we were winning all of them.
And you're absolutely right. And now don't get me wrong, when we come game time, I want to win just as much as the other coach, and y'all want to win just as much as the players. But like here's got 2 questions for you. Maybe if you can answer the first one, I'll ask the second one. If you can't answer the first one, I'll prove my point. Who played in the Super Bowl last year?
The Chiefs and the Niners.
Yep. Okay. Who played in the Super Bowl the year before?
Wasn't it the Patriots? And couldn't tell you.
See, so, and that's kind of what I look at it too. It's like, I mean, that's like arguably the biggest game in the United States every year, right? Is the Super Bowl. And you get a year or two down the road, you don't even remember. I'm like you. I remember the Patriots won it. I don't remember who they played. And so the road, you're not going to, believe it or not, you're not going to, if you win a state championship, obviously you're going to remember that specific fact. I mean, you'll have a ring, or, you know, you're going to remember that specific fact, but you won't remember the wins and losses as much as you think you'll remember the other stuff way more. Right? And, you know, that's just something some kids understand that already. A lot of times you don't understand that until you're an adult. But I don't remember my high school and my senior year. I have no idea what our football record was. I don't remember. No, we didn't make the playoffs, but I don't have any recall. But I remember a lot of my friends, a lot of things that happened, bus rides, all kinds of stuff. Wins, losses, I don't remember.
Yeah, I will say, like, personally, like, in the games I play with, I don't remember all the wins and losses. But the varsity games, because, like, I usually try and go to all of them I can. Because I like, not only just to watch the team play, but I really like to, while I'm there, like to study and take in what everyone's doing on both sides of the ball. I just see where I can improve my game. And even that, I don't really remember the score, but I remember things that happened in the game that I'm thinking, like, maybe like I'm going to start employing that, or I'm going to make sure I don't do that. And I'm always just trying to take an opportunity to learn. And it's the same thing with film. When y'all send it out to the varsity guys, it does get passed down to us JV guys. And I know most of the guys on Purple last year, at lunch, we'd sit together and we would watch it. And then we'd talk about it. what we, especially like me and Xavier, we talk about assignments that were missed by the safeties and what should have been called in certain places. Like I know we had a lot of deep conversations about the playoff run, what could have been a lot better, and where things could have been fixed and all that.
Yeah. And, you hear like Belichick's a big guy that says this all the time, Saban, and they're arguably pretty successful guys, right? It's like, the do your job, do your job, do your job. And if everybody's really just focusing on what they can do better and don't focus at the end result, like don't just be looking at the scoreboard all night, just focus on where can I get a little bit better here, get a little bit better right here, where can we get a little bit better right here, just your own position, your own person. If everybody's doing that, you make huge jumps because everybody's doing it. Only one or two guys are trying to improve, and the rest of them are just worried about the result, and you're not going to improve as much. So the fact like y'all are doing that is probably why y'all were successful too.
And I think it also helps from playing other sports, and especially because me and Xavier both are in wrestling. I think that helps because that is a more or less a solo sport. You can make the argument that it's a team sport. I say it's a solo sport because it's just you on the mat. So when it comes down to it, it's anything that happens is on you. And I think when I got into it, I really took that to heart. Like it could be translated to football. Like when it comes down to it, everything can be based onto a one-on-one. And it's like straight up, like I need to do this better and then do this, and then it'll help everyone around me.
You should have heard us say that in off season some, but like I'm a big, I've had a couple of schools where I've had they've had wrestling, a couple of schools that I haven't, but the schools that hadn't had wrestling had powerlifting, track, powerlifting, wrestling. All those could be arguably a team sport because there's like a team, like track, you're keeping team points, powerlifting, you keep team points and stuff, wrestling, same thing. But ultimately you're right. It's an individual sport. And the thing that you learn from that, you've heard me say this in off season, is you can always hide in football, especially when something goes bad. If I'm a quarterback and I throw an interception, I can blame it on the O-line. I can blame it on the receiver if I want to. He ran the wrong route. I can blame it on the coaches for calling the stupid play. But like when you get out there and wrestle somebody, man, you get your butt kicked. It's on you, man. It ain't mine. I didn't call any plays. It ain't the defensive lineman's fault that you just got your butt kicked in a wrestling match. It's yours. And then vice versa too. When you succeed, that's yours too. And you learn something from that, the confidence of you're accountable to yourself. And that's the first person you got to be accountable to. You can't be accountable to anybody else before you learn to be accountable to yourself. And so you get that from other sports, wrestling, track, those individual sports where you can't hide. You can't hide in the back. You and him are out there in front of everybody.
Yeah, and I think as a and Logan, I'm sorry I'm talking a lot here. I'm just
Go for it, man.
But like I was talking about earlier, like on the JV Purple team, in those close games, I would see, like in those real tight games where it's like coming down to the wire, I would see the divide happening in the team, and I know I would do my best, and others would do their best around me to, like, we really start focusing in on ourselves. And if someone is starting to point the finger, I mean, that's the first thing to say. It's like you have to look at yourself. That's the only thing you can control. And it's like you can turn and give words of encouragement, tell them to do better, but you can't blame them for what just happened because that's all of us. And I think that's how we got away with a lot of wins. Like when it really came down to it, and that's how we just had that extra push to really get over the hump as a team.
Yeah, and I remember a couple years ago, and it was the year that we went to the semifinals, and we had a really big shootout with Round Rock. We had a couple close games, low scoring close games, high scoring close games, and we seemed to always, generally speaking, come out on top. And I did think about that a lot. I remember that year being just calm, not during practice, but like in the game, just being calm and like, just stay the course, keep focused, stay the course. I'm talking about coaches, me. And this year I panicked more and kind of like got mad more, and because I mean, like if I start getting mad and yelling at you for something or whatever, then whether I'm actually saying the words that it's your fault, my voice, my actions are in front of everybody saying it's your fault. And so it's a bit of pointing the fingers. And I think I did that more this year than we have in the last couple of years. And, then you wonder, well, why are kids doing it? Probably because maybe the head coach was doing it too. So I definitely learned that too man, we just got to stick together. Bad thing happens. It's already happened.
Yeah, and I think that's why our off-season program is probably one of the best out there, because it really teaches us we have to band together if all of us want to survive off-season, really. And so when it comes down to it, it's like I see it on the sidelines, like a single player can get chewed out by one of the coaches, and then other guys come around and be like, "Hey, bro, you good? You're straight." And then everyone would be talking to him, this is what you need to do, and everyone's banded together. Like at a certain point, it's almost like if we have to, it's almost players versus the coaches, but at the end of the day, we're still together.
Absolutely.
Logan, you had anything bad?
You guys covered all that I was going to say.
Overall, if you can't tell, I'm really excited for next season.
Yeah.
No doubt, me too.
Definitely.
Yeah, it feels good to just get in there and talk a little bit about football, just because we really just haven't been able to do it much.
Yeah, definitely. Now, and what?
Do you want to turn this over to chat, see if they have any questions for Coach?
Yeah, chat, if you want to add any questions you have for Coach, I'm going to get into the hard-hitting questions here. We've been talking about football. These are the serious ones. Now, Coach Rob, if you could be an ice cream flavor, which one would you be?
I hope there's not a why when I answer. But I would be chocolate.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
We've had some interesting answers. I've asked everyone that so far.
I said vanilla. I like vanilla ice cream.
See,
What are you again, Caleb?
My favorite.
Yeah.
Oreos with caramel. That's me. Oreos with caramel ice cream.
Oh, you'd be Oreos. Okay.
See, I still say caramel. That's apparently not how you properly say it.
No, it's not.
I'm not from here, okay? Well, there seems to be silence from chat, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone's just as tired as we are, because a lot of people that have been active in the chat have been here through the long haul, and I'm honestly really surprised they were. I didn't expect to get this kind of reception from our small community, but it's been awesome.
Mm-hmm.
How late are you going? Is this it? We're getting close.
We have two more hours after this.
Yeah. We have one other guest coming on as well.
Yeah, we have an hour of just us sitting here and talking, and we have an hour of a guest, and we'll be done.
Yep.
That's pretty amazing, man. It's hard to do.
It's been a long day.
The conversation, but if you ever listen to like a good radio show in the morning, whatever, whether it's sports or just regular news type radio show or whatever, it's pretty amazing how those guys can they'll talk about something and about the time that it's kind of run its course, they spin it into some other conversation, and they just have like a knack of that's about run its course. It's pretty hard to do.
Yeah, it's definitely an acquired skill.
What's next?
I think ultimately with this that's what we're kind of trying to do, is get better at that and making better content.
Yeah, we're definitely trying to get to that point, because I know I've started to learn how to do that a little bit, especially last year is when I really started working on talking skills and how to keep talking and how to keep a conversation going, and it's really translated well onto this. And it's even with this, I mean, it helps with many factors of life. But having to sit here and just talk to people for this long, it helps my social skills, because I'm not a very social person. And it's you've coached me from about to go into the fourth year. You coach me. You don't see me interact with a lot of guys very often.
Both y'all are pretty quiet, but your communication. everybody watches the news in some form or fashion, whether you're getting bits and pieces off social media, which is dangerous, but miscommunication are generally like the biggest problem. Biggest problems generally come from miscommunication. This problem solver is usually good communication, because like if I miscommunicate my message to you, whether it offends you or makes you mad or shuts you down or makes you hate me, when I really wasn't trying to do that at all, it's just bad communication. Where if you can communicate well and people understand what you're trying to get across and understand your meaning and your purpose, man, it usually solves a lot of problems. Bad communication usually causes lots of problems.
Yeah, and that's a big goal that me and Logan had to starting this podcast. Is like he always says is he doesn't like to argue. He likes to open a dialogue. Like for someone that doesn't agree with him, like he wants to start the conversation, understand what they're thinking, let them understand what we are thinking. And we've had a lot of deep conversations on here about it. Like most recently, I guess it wasn't too much of a conversation, more of a rant about the quarantine that's been going on that I had. That I took that and ran with it, but I did stay on for an extra long time to see how people did receive it, and just so everyone knew I was talking. I wasn't trying to preach and just impose my views onto them, but I was just explaining why like things are happening in a certain way and why it's the best for us.
Yeah.
Caleb, I think you have one more question.
Do I?
For Coach Rob, the number, the 1 through 5. Caleb, it's not on the script. Something that you've asked every guest.
Oh,
there
that's
you
right.
go.
I forgot. Okay, Coach Rob, pick a number between 1 through 5.
1 through 5. I'm gonna go with number 3.
Another 3.
Everybody has picked 3.
We've had 3 3s, 1 4, and another 3. Because I'm asking every interviewer every person we interview to pick a number, because at the end of the stream, I'm gonna add all those together, and that's the money I'm gonna put in out of my own pocket into the Habitat fund.
So that's why Logan was flashing the 5.
Yeah. He's been doing that.
I've been trying to hint it to everybody.
Good. We'll have to get on there, and I'd like to donate to that too. So
That'd be amazing.
figure out.
Every little bit helps. All right. Well, as this.
Oh my God. If you're looking at the stream on Twitch, the link will pop up. If not, we can email it to you.
Might email it to me, because I'm not. Man, I'll tell you, like I had to brush up on some technical skills, like the first couple weeks of quarantine, and doing like a Zoom, like the first Zoom meeting I did was we did some interviews for so I don't see y'all, man, y'all probably don't even know, maybe you do, but like Macy Walker, Coach Walker, the volleyball coach, left. She's just getting out of teaching coaching. She's actually going to work for Dell Computers. So we had to like hire a new volleyball coach. It's like, that was my first experience, like Miss Kim's. All right, Monday we're gonna have a Zoom meeting, and you have these questions, and we have to write down answers. Like we have to type in our answers, and I'm gonna share everything with you on Google Drive, and you just get in the meeting, bring up this list of questions, you'll type them in on your deal. And man, I was like screwed up. I was typing my answers on her sheet, and she was nice about it. She said, "Look, I'm just gonna change, because like the sheet, we have the same sheet, but like one has her name, one has my name. So I'm just gonna change the name on my sheet to your name, and I'm gonna change because you've been typing on my sheet the whole time." I'm like, "Oh, sorry." So my technical skills, I've had to sharpen them up with the quarantine.
I will say I kind of had to do the same, since we are streaming in a larger capacity now that we have just buckets of time. I need to kind of refresh myself.
You know what's crazy, not to extend this, but before the quarantine, the only like online this type deal, whatever you call it, face-to-face video meeting that I'd ever heard of was Skype.
Yeah, Skype.
There's
That's
so
probably-
many now.
What was crazy is, and we talked about this, Coach. I think we did our first meeting. We did it on Google Hangouts,
Yeah.
and we were talking, just shooting the breeze, man. Just we hadn't talked to each other. Skype, like their stock or whatever, it's non-existent, man. Like nobody uses it. And that's the only thing I've never heard of Zoom. I'd never heard of Google Hangout. I figured I'd talk to you how to use Skype. So I'd done a Skype interview once, but
Mm-hmm.
And our original plan was to do Skype, but what I didn't realize, and what actually made it obsolete, is that the Skype program is actually really heavy on your software, so it takes a lot of processing to run on your CPU. Like pretty much is like it stresses your laptop or a computer if it's not like super high end. And Zoom is a lot lighter for your machine to carry, and that's why more people use it, and it can do it at a bigger capacity. Like you can have 500 people in a Zoom call, which I didn't know.
Oh yeah.
and I'm assuming you're not talking about pounds.
No.
No. Another thing before we head out, Coach Rob, if you do decide to donate and go to the link, there will be like check boxes on like where you want to donate it to. What we're sponsoring right now is Build a Home, and then there's a comment section of where you can put like where you can fund this event.
Yeah, at the very, very bottom of the comments, tell them we sent you. And I already emailed you the link and it'll take you right to that page.
And I'll try to email it to Coach Wolf and get him to add it to the CR Football Twitter.
Awesome. At the
When I want to tweet something, I email people, hey, will you tweet this?
Yeah. Definitely.
Well, I mean, that's just about our time. Thank you so much, Coach Rob, for coming on and talking with
Yeah,
us.
enjoy it. Thank you guys for having me.
Of course. I mean, it was a pleasure to have you.
Yeah. And good luck. And I think, and I'm not going to say anything yet, I think in a couple weeks, we're going to be able to maybe do some stuff outside, kind of social distancing. There's going to be some guidelines, but like I ain't just kind of seeing faces, man. We're pretty excited when, some people, not everybody came, but like when people came to pick up cleats and stuff, if they wanted to.
Yeah.
People we
It was
see.
fun to see everybody.
Yeah, so I think in a couple weeks, I don't know if you pay attention to UIL stuff. If Round Rock approves it, then in like June 8th, you're gonna be able to do some stuff. It's not a lot of indoor stuff or interacting stuff, but they would get up to the school and see people and run around a little bit, lift a little bit. It'd be fun.
Yeah. Definitely.
We'll be hearing about that hopefully Tuesday.
Okay. Sounds great.
All right, we'll see you guys.
All right. Thank you so much, Coach.
You bet. We'll see it.